people in the scriptural writings.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad or his wife said this man was teaching, and he felt that he had to now. He had this urgent need to hear this man. And every time he would go to where the man was meeting, he would get there, the man was gone. And it was just creating this urgent desire to hear, this yearning to hear this man. So September 22nd, 1931, he hears for the first time his teacher, Master Fard Muhammad.
When I met him, I looked at him and he, it just came to me like this, that this is the Son of Man that the Bible says, that prophesied that will come in the last days of the world.
So when he met Master Fard Muhammad in September of 1931, he had a certain orientation of mind. He was sensitive to the suffering of his people, and he was very versed in the biblical scriptures.
Elijah Muhammad recognized the man, Fard Muhammad, when he first went out to hear this man teaching in Detroit. He heard from what Master Fard Muhammad was teaching. He recognized him instantly according to the scriptures, that this was the one in fulfillment of the prophecies of the Son of Man, or the second coming of Jesus.
He hears him, and the man, he said, was speaking in like the third person, that God is going to do this and do this, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in his mind, said, no, it's you that man.
And that I couldn't get that out of me. And I shook hands with him, and I said to him, I say, you are the one that the Bible prophesies that will come at the end of the world under the name Son of Man and under the name the second coming of Jesus. And so he looked at me a little stern, and then he smiled and he put his head down to my beside my head and whispered in my ear and said these words. He said, yes, I am the one, but who knows that? But yourself. And be quiet.
It was in 1931 when this God in this strange form was in Detroit, and the people didn't recognize who he was. But then in Detroit, he did meet, or in the suburb of Detroit, he met a man who did see past the disguise.
Well, when I first met him, it came to me that he was the man that the Bible prophesied would come in the last days as the Son of Man. And I recognized him to be that, as I had studied Bible ever since I was a little child. When I first learned to read, I learned to read the Bible.
He finds a man from among us that he had been searching for. He knew who he was looking for, and he found him. And believe it or not, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad knew who he was looking for, and he found him.
But Elijah had been preconditioned with a certain heart. So when he saw Master Fard Muhammad, it was, as the Quran states, certainly he saw him in another descent, and his heart was not untrue in seeing what he saw. He saw God.
While the people reject God in his unrecognizable form, there's one from among the people who recognizes God. despite his disguise. And this one that recognizes God in his disguise, he says, I know who you are.
Then when I met this man, then I told him, I said, you are the one that the Bible teaches that will come, the Son of Man or the Messiah. And so he whispered in my ear. He got close to me. He looked all around, see who heard that. And he whispered in my ear and told me, he said, yes. He said, but keep quiet. He says, don't say anything to anyone about that. He said, I will let you know that. Say that.
And then does something strange. He tells him, shh, don't tell anybody.
Master Fard Muhammad didn't announce himself to the world. No, instead, he found one he would reveal his secrets to. Secrets that sounded strange and outlandish at first.
Himself, this was a gradual process. He didn't like just knock on someone's door and say, oh, hi, I'm Allah, the creator of the universe, okay? You know, I'm the Mahdi, I'm a prophet. No, it was a very gradual process of unveiling that he shared with some of his disciples, including Elijah Muhammad, but others as well.
So here you have, in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, a recognition of who was among us. And because he recognized him for who he was, he became that chief student through whom Master Fard Muhammad could teach. And he taught him for 3 years and 4 months.
We read in the Quran in Surah Al-Najm, 53rd chapter, about this kind of meeting. Some type of meeting between one mighty in power, Allah, who teaches and shows his servant some of the greatest signs of his Lord. Now, I don't know of any greater sign than God personally and physically showing a man his very identity, along with the most powerful mechanical object in the universe, that object that was prophesied to serve as proof of God's presence.
Like the James Webb Space Telescope could miss such objects.
It could have been a mother ship that released some probes in the habitable region around the sun. If we have a visitor to our backyard, we should observe it at first.
She said the temple would be packed at every meeting, and many times lines were formed outside, down the street, and around the corner, with black people waiting to come in and listen to Brother Farad, because he told them to call him brother.
They said that he has at least 8,000 followers. Historians have said 25,000 followers. But this mysterious man attracted nearly 20%, almost a quarter of the entire black population of Detroit, to a message that included a message of salvation, a message of deliverance, a message that described a vehicle.
He said Brother Farad would hold sessions, teach, recess, and teach again. Hundreds would attend each session. What did he teach? The 6,000-year history.
He could recite the history of our planet day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, going back 150,000 years, and taught us of the origin of the universe and God's own self-creation.
So here he is in Detroit, and he finds his man, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he begins to feed the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But he tells his man, don't tell anybody. Don't say nothing. Shh. Don't tell them that I'm here. Why? Why not announce? God is present. Why not announce it? Because I have a work to do. I have to do something first.
That man, Elijah Muhammad, from the very beginning, recognized who that man was. And Master Fard Muhammad said, who else knows but you? We'll talk about that at another time.
As the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that Islam started strange and it will return to be strange. So tuba for the strangers. And they said, who are the strangers, O Prophet of Allah?
As it has always been when Allah reveals truth to the people, at first it's rejected, it's mocked, it's ridiculed, but it becomes established. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan are being confirmed today.
So Allah, God, the Son of Man, shows up in a wheel, and he comes down from the wheel, and he finds Elijah, and he teaches Elijah, and oh God, did he teach that man, and he makes Elijah Muhammad into himself.
Much he said to me. He used to teach me night and day. We used to sit sometime from early part of the night until sunrise and after sunrise, all night long for about 2 years or more. He was with us 3 years, a little better, and I was constantly around him, and he was constantly teaching me of things of Islam and what is to come and what was before.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad met with and was taught by the great Mahdi, Master Fard Muhammad, who he said is the manifestation of the presence of God in the world.
He left scientific and practical evidence with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He taught him secrets. For it's written in the Holy Quran in Surat al-Jinn, the 72nd surah, that Allah would choose his chosen messenger to give his secrets to.
Well, Elijah Muhammad stated that all of his knowledge came from Master Farad, and that he hadn't learned anything, beside that. He was pretty much a blank slate. He had very little education, and then he was initiated into all of these secrets over a period of years in the early 1930s.
We would go and get, Dr. So-and-so or Professor so-and-so or this one or that one. He didn't do that. He chose a man from the mud and raised that man. And that's part also proof that he is who he say he is.
So when God gives his secrets to his chosen messenger, he's going to give him things and information and truths that were not publicly known at the time.
He gives him a book called Supreme Wisdom. In it are actual facts. In it is a student enrollment. In it is lesson number 1, lesson number 2. Lost found Muslim, lesson number 1 and number 2. And in it is a problem book.
This man that came, he measured the earth. as it is written of him. He measured the waters, the hills and the mountains. He measured the distance between planets and told us that there was life on all of the 9 planets in our solar system.
He taught Elijah Muhammad that the earth and the moon were once one and the same. Now, I'm certain that sounded crazy and outlandish at first.
I mean, you think about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad from the 30s all the way up to his departure being maligned and vilified for saying that the moon was once part of the earth. Well, it started unraveling when in '69, I think, when the astronauts went to the moon and the man said, "I smell gunpowder up here." And then by the year 2000, it became universally known in the world of science that moon was once a part of Earth and some cataclysmic event blew it away.
Astronomers have been betting on this theory since the mid-1970s. But recent research introduces a plot twist. The composition of many lunar rocks analyzed so far resembles the rocks found on Earth. In addition, the lunar rock samples show similar isotopic signatures to terrestrial rocks, unlike those found on Mars or elsewhere in the solar system. This makes it very likely that much of the material that makes up the moon came originally from Earth.
And so if you have to ultimately bear witness that this man told you, has been telling you this since 1930, and he proved to be right about what happened, then maybe you need to bow down to how it happened. Because now you want to say, oh, it just happened. No, stop it.
To whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? And so it was revealed to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad.
So the earliest believers, they believe because of their faith that they have in the man that brought them the message. Subsequently, God is actively involved in confirming that which he revealed.
So this messenger would reveal certain truths that might sound crazy as hell at first. But over time, those truths would become evident scientifically, historically, and empirically.
According to Elijah Muhammad's earliest writings, he said Master Farad Muhammad came to us from the holy city of Mecca in Arabia. He pointed out to me a dreadful looking plain, a half a mile by a half a mile.
Allah showed me the place. As I tell you, if you find me lying on what I tell you or he said, I'll give you $10,000 out of my brother's vest pocket.
Investigator Martin Jasicus, registered civil engineer, was able to triangulate. This thing was between half a mile and a mile big. So that rules out any conventional aircraft. The silence rules out, as you know, any airplanes.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad used this language. He pointed out to me in the sky a vehicle called the Mother Plane, a human-built planet in the sky that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says he told me was there for the purpose of the destruction of America if she refused to give justice to black people in America.
That prophetic ship that's accompanied by 1,500 smaller wheel-shaped planes. This is the origin of the modern UFO phenomenon. And this is what most scholars and leaders are too afraid to address in public.
Do these were whistleblowers. These were pilots that had come forward to Representative Gates' office with information saying this needs to be investigated. We have an increase in sightings in this region, and it's a cause for concern for national security reasons. We don't know what it is, so we went.
Which is why there's a multi-level, multi-agency cover-up about this truth. UFOs, or what we've always called wheels, and their connection to the Nation of Islam.
Demonstrating how poor the press coverage has been. I haven't seen one about coverage by the scientific community or coverage by the political community.
When I was first introduced to the mother plane, someone said, well, you know, if this white man messes with us, we got something for him. And I said, because we're learning no weapons, no guns, no knives, nothing. I said, we got something for him. And I said, what? Because I'm with it. I'm glad to hear it. And that's when I first heard the description of the wheel.
But among these many evidences and truths that Master Fard Muhammad gave to his servant and messenger Elijah Muhammad was that he pointed out to him physically the reality of this huge wheel-shaped plane called the mother wheel or the mother plane. He pointed it out to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, along with its 1,500 accompanying smaller wheel-shaped planes that are now called by the world UFOs.
This is actually pretty interesting. Alarming increase in UFO sightings has the Pentagon's attention. The crafts demonstrate unusual flight characteristics, performance capabilities, technology that, to our knowledge, defies explanation from any country's top scientists and researchers.
This is in the early 1930s, before there was ever a thing as a UFO phenomenon.
Kenneth Arnold, who reported the unidentified flying objects over Mount Rainier in June of 1947, and a local reporter then coined the phrase UFO, unidentified flying objects.
History, it was fascinating. He would draw a circle on the blackboard to return to at the end of his teaching and would complete it, calling it the mother's plane. The biblical wheel in the middle of the wheel that Ezekiel saw in the Bible. He taught that this plane was built to destroy America. Wow. This made us happy to know at least someone was going to kill the enemy that made us slaves.
Yes, ma'am.
Therefore, the meeting was always emotionally high, and he himself added to this emotion by at times hitting his pointing stick on the blackboard.
Before there was even a term, flying saucers, before UAP and UFOs became a part of America's vernacular, Elijah Muhammad had already been shown these things and given the most integral details concerning these planes.
A human-built planet with 1,500 little planes that the enemy calls UFOs.
UFO chief. This is a Pentagon guy, a UFO chief, the chairman of Harvard's astronomy department as well, both releasing a report on Tuesday where they wrote an artificial interstellar object could potentially be a parent craft that releases many small probes during its close passage to Earth.
The scientists from the Pentagon said that this mothership that they were talking about that's in our solar system could be releasing little mini probes. Well, in the Fall of America, the messenger talks about there being many planes, like small planes, in the mothership.
It went up in 1929 and the stock market crashed. 1929. It went up because it's a weapon, but also on it is healing for the condition of our planet.
But we know that this machine, we know that this plane, one, was created for the salvation of the black people, and then two, was created for the judgment on behalf of black people. So it's a destroyer plane as well.
This isn't people's imagination. UFOs are real. The government knows about it. They recently released their CIA files. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of pages.
And this was not made yesterday. It was completed in 1929 on the island of Nippon.
Now, in the construction of this masterpiece of mechanics, Master Fard Muhammad shared with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who then shared with us, his people, in the early 30s, that
by designing and pulling together all of the scientists and engineers and workers that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us, this one working on that aspect or this part of this city, not even knowing what they were making.
This wheel was made by thousands of people. Thousands of people on this earth. Nothing spooky now. Not aliens, not Martians. No, human beings from this earth.
Nobody is yet saying at the government level that they think any of this is from outer space. Maybe advanced weapon systems, maybe new communications or travel systems. Some of it may just be mysteries, but they don't think it's aliens.
It does sound like.
Now, the main portion of the wheel was made, we understand, in the Japan area. And even though there were thousands of people working on this project, they didn't know what the ultimate end of this project would be. These were people who were paid, and they were paid handsomely. It cost to get this project underway. But the masses of those working on it had no idea what the ultimate goal it would be.
In the book of Ezekiel, it talks about these wheels and the cherubims, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it only means the presence of angels on these wheels, angels that are human beings.
So they defy what we know about what we are capable of producing.
It was Master Fard Muhammad and his host of scientists, or what we would call angels, working under him that had the more of the full details as to where this project was going. But they hired people from all over the world, especially in that Japan area, to work on this project in a way that the world was not alerted as to what was going on. This was a secretive project. God has secrets too. And that's why in the Quran it says that he would share his secrets with his chosen messenger.
And certain parts were made by made in certain factories around different places or parts of the earth without the manufacturers knowing exactly what they were manufacturing or where that part was going. And it was secretly assembled on one of the islands on what's called Nippon, which is Japan. No, this is not something that white folks have any say-so over or power over. None. And now the plane is independent of the white man, independently flying. White folks don't have nothing to do with it. It scares them to hell.
These objects can fly without creating any exhaust. In other words, quote, they're not ours, unquote, as stated by one Pentagon official. And so we're talking about a technology that we're not familiar with.
And that's why Professor Michael Lieb, who wrote this book called The Children of Ezekiel, in which he included the Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad, and Louis Farrakhan. Listen to Professor Lieb's words from a Final Call newspaper interview. He says, quote,
"The Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan represent the capstone to this study. When it comes to the Nation of Islam, it's a study of the mother plane and its apocalyptic overtones."
this wheel, which is really, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to us, is a man-made planet having its own atmosphere. So naturally, it would have to have a tremendous height and depth to house 1,500 smaller planes. And those planes are not drones. They're man-operated and piloted.
And what I have a problem with, of course, is the dismissal of UFOs as being aliens. That's not my perspective. What I'm saying is that UFOs are real. I'm not saying these are beings from outer space.
I hate to say this, and it sounds unpatriotic, but the Air Force has lied about UFOs for more than 50 years, 60 years actually. And this would be in keeping with that.
For what purpose?
To keep us from knowing what's going on.
Why?
Why? They want to figure out how they work. They worry about somebody else figuring out how they work. If they were to announce that some UFOs are alien spacecraft, I would expect there'd be a push toward an Earthling orientation as opposed to American, Chinese, whatever. I don't think any president wants that.
And so as we talk about the mother plane, we know that the mother plane is a weapon that was created by man, right? That was directed by God himself to be created. And those who are on the mother plane are not aliens, not some green aliens that Hollywood would try to make us believe, right? To discredit the work of the black man. And the black man is a scientist by nature.
So are you not positing the idea that those vehicles contain, beings who are, maybe like us?
There is one image there that shows black people getting off.
So people with dark skin getting off?
Not dark, black.
Black skin?
Really black, yeah.
Were they tall?
Yes.
Very tall?
And so anytime that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked, and he tells you, I got this from God in person, these were warnings.
But all of the stories and all of the interpretations and all of the religions we have are at the end of the day human interpretations and human stories and human religions. So my gut feeling is that these are finally human things.
This city in the sky, it has people, a minimum of 1,500 pilots. And I would imagine the pilots have families, maybe not all of them. So you're talking about a tremendous staff of people that live in this city that John the Revelator beautifully describes as the New Jerusalem, a city in the sky.
These smaller wheel-shaped planes, they fly at phenomenal speeds. He described them as, he said that they can travel so fast that you could blink your eyes and they would be gone.
And as I get within about a half mile of it, it rapidly accelerates to the south in about 2 seconds and disappears.
Wait a minute now. You have these planes that are able to travel at exorbitant speeds. Where'd they come from? Okay, so the messenger said, hey, they ain't coming from no foreign planet.
He said they can hide behind the stars, so at night they can cloak themselves and appear like you think you're looking at stars, but you might be looking at one of these wheels. They can cloak themselves as clouds. They can form clouds, for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said they create their own atmosphere.
There's a belief that UFOs use clouds as cover and they hide behind them. I've heard stories that UFOs can actually shapeshift and look like clouds.
The well-trained crew of the mothership, the wheel, can dodge the enemy and make the enemy look for the wheel where the wheel is not.
Is there anything that you know of capable of this kind of behavior?
No, there's nothing I know of. I mean, this, when we saw the video with the IR, it has no exhaust, no discernible things of anything form of propulsion. And this thing came from a dead hover over the water, just kind of moving around, to a climb up to about 12,000 feet to rapidly accelerating away in a climb, and in less than 2 seconds it was gone.
But the wheel is the absolute, I'll put it in the words of the minister, the greatest sign of his presence and the greatest sign that he is God, the supreme being.
That's one of the topics that a lot of people want to know about the Nation of Islam. And we were the first people to really even talk about the UFO phenomena. You know, we were the first ones to bring that, because when the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was taught by Master Fard Muhammad about these wheels, you got to think about it. That was in the 1930s, you know.
Classified researchers have been asking, when you go back through the history that we know of, back in the late 1940s when this first appeared on the scene, within the Air Force there were competing solutions to this problem.
And before then, the U.S. wasn't talking about it. And so it kind of shows you that we always are ahead of what the government decides that they're going to put out.
The early Muslims in the Nation of Islam caught a lot of attention